Welcome to the Hashknife. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about worming, and worming our horses in particular, the ones up close in the corrals. And I'll probably be a little bit redundant about this, but what I've got is a kind of a generic paste. And this guy is something you can pick up in any of our stores, feed stores, kind of the Shiptons of the world, Murdoch's, you name it, Tractor Supply, where they've got, or online, they've got, always have wormers out for different times of the year. This one in particular does not have one for tapeworms. I'll do that in the spring, summertime, and I, like any other animal husbandry type caretaker, I'm watching their poop. That's what I do. And you can tell a lot about the health of an animal by their urine, feces, parasites that are in it. And when you work them hard or got too much work to them, particularly in some very stressful times, watching the color of their urine, you may be having to back off on how they are being used, how tough their climate is, what they're being asked to perform, and modulate that back a little bit. Usually by the time you see that, it's starting to get a little bit late if it's super noticeable. So you want to keep on top of that all the time. This has got all of the indications for what this is good for in the back. Different types of worms. I'm not going to get into it, just a broad spectrum. Talks about the dosage and control program. Kind of tells you, what they like to see you do. Of course, they want you to buy a lot of wormer. We don't worm our horses out in the pasture as often as we do the ones up close, because the chances of picking up parasites are greatly reduced in a pasture type setting. So they get wormed twice a year. These guys, if you're up close, as long as you're up close, I'm going to watch that poop pile, look for any kinds of worms, parasites at all, and then treat accordingly. And within reason. You need to do this, maybe quarterly when you're up this close. Is a good interval, but we certainly want to worm after a hard freeze, and that kills any of the bot eggs that are on their legs. And we've talked about that a little bit prior to make sure that those eggs that are laid on them are no longer viable or frozen. And even if they lick their legs and ingest it, nothing's going to happen. They're taken care of. But anything that's in the body is then taken care of with a good quality wormer. Some of the things it talks about, like anything does, in case you see problems, call a vet. One of the things that's on here is it says that it's okay for geldings mares of any age in pregnancy, and stallions may be treated without adversely affecting their fertility. You want to be very careful with this, and I've got a couple of these young stallions out here that we're going to be watching or dosing and of course keeping an eye on. But sterility in a breeding program isn't a breeding program very long, so you got to be careful. And some of these dosages are a fairly broad spectrum. There's a little wiggle room there, quite a lot of wiggle room in some. Others, not at all. And so if you overdose them based on their body weight, then you can cause some serious damage neurologically. And you'll see that fairly quickly within 24 to 48 hours. One of the things that's common in an overdose from wormer is a condition called wobbles, where they just can't, they shake and just are very unsteady, and that's a neurological condition. So there's some wormers that I don't even touch. I won't, because they are prone to more of that than other types of brands. So you got to rotate your wormers. It's very important to not use the same wormer every single time. Rotate those wormers to take care of any possible resistance in your worming program, because we get basically a closed herd for the most part. There are some animals that are not, but animals that are coming into our property for training, or if you're riding with someone else, you are not a closed herd anymore. So that can also cause a whole myriad of other issues that we can maybe talk about at another time. So this one is a anthelmintic and boticide. So it is specifically hits those bots in the late fall or late summer when they lay them, and so they'll hang on until the fall and then until after that first hard freeze. So this guy is nothing more than looks like just a little syringe. Pull this out, and it's a 1,250 pound maximum. Pull the cap off, and then just simply push that, squirt it into their mouth based on the correct dosage that you can dial in right here. And we'll figure out some weights and then dial these up so we don't waste a lot of time ahead of time, and go ahead and apply them. So stick around. So the horses we have to do today are the ones up in the corral. We've got 2 young stallions, and I guess their weights around 750 to 800, somewhere in there. And then the coming 3-year-old gelding, he's about 1,000 pounds. And then we've got Envy, the little filly that most of us have seen during the weaning portion of her little young life so far that she was so thrilled about. Her and the 1,000-pound 3-year-old, or coming 3-year-old, are together. She's really acclimating nice, and now's another time to put her through one more thing that she had very, very early. After about 6 weeks of age, she had a initial wormer. But I'm going to bring them in one at a time, separate and bring them into this corral, and just be very easy about it, quiet, and it's not something that they're used to because of their ages. They haven't done it a lot. The gelding has done it the most, obviously, because of his age, but he's been out to pasture most of the time, so he hasn't had it a lot either, only a couple times a year outside of that first initial time that he was spent some months here in his weaning time. What I've done is I've pre-selected my weights so I don't have to monkey around with it too much, and I've set this one for the one of the stallions, or the 2 stallions, at about 800 pounds, and that way I can just do it. I'm not causing any big problems, and we'll just get right on to one right after the other, kick them out, and shouldn't make such a big deal about it. These are used in such a manner that I'm going to maximize my dosages for 4 horses with just 3 syringes of our wormer paste, and I'll do that because it's economically smart to do it. I've got odd weights, and these aren't full-size horses, so I can combine a couple of these from one from the gelding, who's going to use all but 250 pounds of his wormer, and then I'll combine the other ones, and if I have to use them both, and just shy of full doses to get the filly, I can do that. Maximize the amount of wormer I'm going to be able to get down their throat, and minimize the number of money it costs to get them there. So this is not something that is, again, that they're used to, but this is why it's so important during the imprinting time that we play with the colts' mouths, stick our fingers in their mouths, get them used to this, to see if and to hopefully make this little task a whole lot easier, especially on this little filly. And I don't expect her to be really good at it because I haven't put my fingers in her mouth in a couple of months, but we'll see how it goes. All right, well, after evaluating this little fella, I think I'm going to put him down about 800 pounds. I'm not going to give him the full 850 that I think he was, or I thought he was earlier. I believe that's a little high. So I'll scale this back down a little bit. Here's our about 800. And then we're going to see if we can just sneak this up in behind his cheek. Let him chew on that a little bit. And make it so it's not quite so obnoxious. Just put that between his cheek and gum a little bit. Hold his foot, or his head up. He's not really thrilled about that. He's like, what is that? That is weird. Is it just kind of a real pasty type material? And then I find if you give them just a little bit of grain, they will kind of chew that, pick up that paste with that grain a little bit, and chew it on down. And you can tell they'll give some of this flaming behavior that's just kind of a weird sensation, weird taste. So that's all there is to that for him. All right, this guy is a little bit bigger, a little taller, and it doesn't take much variation in their size to really see a big difference. And he's starting to get, as you can tell, just a little bit more stutty and a little more pushy, a little more lippy. So I have increased his dose up here just a little bit to about that 850 mark where I thought we'd ought to be. And that's what we're going to give him. So we'll see how he does. We're going to stick this in, give it a squeeze, and the same thing. It's like, ew, what is that? I have not had anything like that in my mouth that I can remember in recent history here. But he just has forgot. Give him a little chance to have a little grain. Good boy. Yeah, he took that right down. You can see I was moving his tongue around, trying to get that stuff out of there. And it's a strange sensation for him, but I do think this grain, it always seems to help them from slobbering it outside of their mouth. And it makes one happy when they see it stay in their mouth and not out on the ground where it's gotten spit out, because that does happen. Hey, what's the matter, kid? Yeah, boy. Yeah, it doesn't make you happy, does it? All right. Well, let's go to victim number 3. All right, here's our third pony. This is that coming 2-year-old gelding, or coming 3-year-old gelding, sorry. You can tell he's a little thicker, a little bit longer, and a little more substantially muscled than the other two, as what we have to take into account. So I've got this up there, I guess him we're about 1,000 pounds. And so I'm just gonna slip this just in the corner of his mouth, just like I did the others. Give it a squirt. And then let him chew on that while same thing, give him a chance to get this grain. And this grain is a nice little helper to keep that in his mouth, not dribbling it out. And that paste is nothing like they normally eat, so that's why you get quite that reaction like that. But if you can mix that paste with a bunch of grain, and he'll throw some around, but it's soaking up. Yeah, I don't see any paste on that at all. Mostly on his tongue, and if I can get that far enough back, then they tend to swallow it. So, all right. Same thing. Notice that lip came up. Just a response from them that's like, what in the world? You can do the same thing if you play with their nose a little bit, and sometimes you can get them to do that. There we go. All right. Time to grab this little filly, and now we're going to have to combine 2 of these. So we're going to hit her twice instead of just once. And shouldn't be a big issue. We'll see how it goes. All right, here we got our little filly, and she is not happy with me because she didn't think she needed to do anything today. So she's gonna have to suck it up a little bit. I've got my 2 dosages here. From the smaller stallion, I was at 800, now to 1250, so it's gonna be about 450 pounds. There's a little bit in here. I'm gonna kind of hedge my bet a little bit, and then give her just a tiny bit more out of this. So I'll kind of put this up where I can get to it quick. Hey. 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 All right. Good girl. And that is that. For now, I'm just going to turn her loose and let her think about this a little bit. Maybe give her a little bit of grain if she wants, but she is kind of in a sour little mood here. She doesn't think she wants any of that too, so she's going to soul up a little bit. But anyway, that's what we've done. Got our worming done again for this quarter, and as long as they're up here tight, like I said, I want to make sure that we keep on top of any parasites, any problems there, and not have any weight loss issues, any kind of health issues with them. So with that, we hope you've enjoyed this and perhaps learned a little something. We'll see you next time.